when you come from a poor background and you don't come from a wealthy background, how do you deal with your family whenever you start buying things like this? Because let me tell you, your family will not understand it either. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Today's video is probably a little bit different. Today's video I am going to talk to you about buying luxury. Well, we always talk about buying luxury, so how's that different? But specifically a number of questions and comments that I get left on my videos quite a bit, or I get a request to talk about something. And on my finance channel, which is Amelia Rose Talks Finance, I got a request to talk specifically about guilt and luxury guilt for buying luxury items. And I also get asked to talk about the judgment that we receive for buying luxury items. And I also get asked to talk about whether or not it's still the same, because I have obviously been buying luxury items for a little while, one or two. And is it still the same as when I first started? Is it still the same buzz? Do I still love it as much? Is it still the same excitement whenever you get that handbag that you've been looking for a long time, or whatever it may be, or you've been saving for? Does it still feel the same? And I get asked that a lot. And it's a good conversation to have, I think. I think it's something to talk about whenever you're buying or entering this luxury crazy world, and whether or not it still feels the same. You get guilt for buying what you're buying and spending the prices that we spend on these bags, and whether or not I feel the judgment, and I get the judgment, or I feel that it's something that we just have to live with. And if we start with part one and say, let's look at whether or not it's still the same. No, it's not. And I would be absolutely lying to you and sitting here as a hypocrite if I told you that every bag that I buy now is the same as that very first Neverfull that I bought. And I will try to find the pictures of me in Rome whenever I got that bag, posing and grinning like an idiot with the Louis Vuitton shopping bag. It was the old deep brown shopping bag. I walked about out of that boutique and I'm posing with it, and I was carrying my shopping bag, and I felt like $110 million. It just felt amazing. It was an achievement. I adored that bag. Talk about thinking a bag was a child. I absolutely adored it. It was just a huge moment for me. And I don't come from money. I do not come from a wealthy background whatsoever. And we'll get into that more later when it comes to the judgment, because I've had a specific request about that. But that's not something that I was used to. And that's not something that came easy in my life, or it's not something that I grew up with. So when I first started to be able to buy luxury handbags or things like that, yeah, it was a moment. It was a moment, and it felt like one, and rightfully so. And it felt like an achievement, and it was amazing. And if I were to sit here and say to you now that it still feels the same every time I buy a handbag, I would be lying to your faces. And that's not what I'm here to do. It has got, to buy these bags now, it has got easier. Not easy, but easier. I have got to the point in my career and my business and my company that it's a bit more accessible, and it's something that I can do more often. And I have talked before about finances and how I manage my finances, and I keep money separate. I put money into a separate account that is for buying things like this, so as it is not touching any of the other monies that are needed for all the many other things that we need for children, for savings, for our houses, for investing, for looking to the future and providing for the future. And I have a whole other channel on it, Amelia Rose Talks Finance, where I talk about this sort of stuff, because these are secondary. And they should be secondary. They should be something that comes after everything else is accounted for. And I am now in the very fortunate position that is somewhat easier than it was at the start. So no, it is not the same. Don't get me wrong. You have all probably watched some of my unboxings. I still get extremely excited about buying these bags. Like if you watch that's the 19 that's sitting there, but the Chanel Houndstooth Walk is in there somewhere. And if you watch the unboxing on that video, I absolutely disgraced myself. I couldn't even keep it together to get through a video. I had been looking for that Houndstooth and wanting that Houndstooth for so long. This one, when I unboxed this beauty, like all of them, I still get very, very excited. I adore my bags. Someone commented there recently that I think they're my pets. That's probably right. And that's probably kinder of you to say than I think they're my children. Because they do mean a huge amount to me. It is an achievement for me to be able to buy them. It's certainly not where my life started. I have came through thick and thin to be in the position that I am in now, and it's something that I very much do not take for granted. I never want to get to the point that buying these bags is blasé, or it is an everyday occurrence, or it is something that is meaningless. If I get like that, somebody take me to the side and slap me really hard around the head. Now, I don't think it's in me to get like that because of my background and how difficult that was. I think I would be completely losing myself if I got to that point. But if I do, you have my permission to slap me hard. I never want it to be taken for granted or blasé, or not to be a big thing to be buying one of these bags at this price. I always want it to have an impact on me, to have an impression, to be something to be wowed about. I want to annoy your heads with my very overexcited unboxings and to be buzzing about it, because that is how I still want these to make me feel. Or else, like, what is the point? They are luxury items, and if they become everyday, well, the wow goes, the luxury goes. But it is not the same as it was at the very start. At the very start, it was just, I can't even describe it. It was such a feeling of achievement. I took that bag. It was my Neverfull GM, which you've all heard about many times on this channel. I would have carried that bag with just a phone, a key and a purse in it, and the bag's huge. But I didn't care because I just wanted to have it. I remember the first time that I caught one of the pull sides in the door handle and snapped it. I was distraught, and before anyone tells me, first world problems, yes, I know, but I was distraught. It was the only bag I had. I had wanted it for so long. I had saved for it, and I phoned my then, I don't even know if he was boyfriend, fiance, whatever he was then, he's now my husband. And I phoned him and phoned him and phoned him, and he kept getting these missed calls. And eventually he answered. He's like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I've snapped my Louis Vuitton bag." That dramatically. And I could hear him on the phone going, "What? You've just left me 10 missed calls. I'm in work. I thought there was an actual emergency." Well, it was an actual emergency in my world at the time. Things have happened in life now, and it's maybe not quite such an emergency. But he was like, "What are you crazy person? Get off my phone. This is not important." But to me, it was important. And I think what brings that back to mind, if you have watched Autumn Blackburn's recent video that she did, if you haven't, you should. If you want to see what it is like whenever you first unbox one of these bags, or what that feeling is like, go watch her video. Now, I film loads in advance, but when I'm uploading this, if I can recall it, I will link it into the description box. I think it's her first Chanel. Autumn is an absolute inspiration. I personally have a difficult enough background. I do not come from money, but this woman is an inspiration. Her story is her story. It's not my story to tell. Go to her channel and you will see it there. She has it on her channel. It's not a private thing that I'm disclosing. I don't know Autumn personally. I just know her from watching her channel. But watch that background and then watch her unboxing of her, I believe, first Chanel bag. If it's not her first Chanel bag, I apologise if I'm getting that wrong, but I think it was her dream bag, and I think it's her first Chanel bag. That video brought it back to me with a hammer to the head, what it is like when this is at the start and this is your first bag and you've been saving for so long and it's your dream bag, and that feeling. And I was taken away on a wave of emotion watching Autumn's video, and it was pure, unadulterated joy. The joy, it was just pure achievement and joy, and I could not have been happier for that woman. And I suppose it brought it home to me that no, it's not the same anymore, and I have to be honest with that. as I say, I still get overly excited. I still adore them. You know that if you've watched my videos. But it is different. And that is, I suppose, the first question that I have been asked and we're addressing in today's video. The second coming from that is the judgment. Yes, we get judged. You get judged no matter what you do in life. But yes, we get judged for buying and liking luxury items. There is a whole massive percentage of the population that just can't understand this. My husband is one, to be quite honest with you. My mother, my brother would absolutely be one. One's plural. Probably even more than my husband. And they just cannot understand why you would spend the amount of money that would buy you a car, or even more than that in some instances, on a handbag. And when you say it out loud like that, it would buy you a car on a handbag. It's crazy. But if you are a luxury lover like myself, a handbag enthusiast, if you have fallen down that rabbit hole, it's what we do and it's what we now choose to spend our money on. Coming with that, because a huge percentage of the population cannot understand that, will not understand that, cannot square that circle, cannot understand why we would spend those X amount of thousands of pounds on a handbag, you're going to get judgment. Yes, we get judgment. Yes, I've got judgment. On one of my videos, I think it was my handbag collection video, someone asked me what I was overcompensating for with my handbags. I am very pleased to tell you that I am very happy in my life. I love my husband. I have 2 children. I have 2 dogs. I love my mum, my brother, my family. I am very blessed when it comes to the people in my life, my friends. At the time, I was probably compensating for lockdown and that I couldn't go anywhere. And I was getting a bit out of control on the old internet shopping. But you will get that. People will automatically want to find the problem. Was I compensating for not having enough love in my life? No, I wasn't. Or was I buying the bags because I was filling some other void? Well, maybe travel, but apart from that, on a more deeper level, no. You know, but that judgment comes. Why would you possibly do this? It is the same. I remember when I was younger having no money. And I remember one specific occasion going out and I had on a little gold bolero that I had bought from, depending what currency I was shopping in at the time, Primark or Pennies. It's the same place, but it's called different in the north and south. And I can tell you to this day it was £10 and it was a little gold bolero that I had on over a white vest top and a pair of jeans. And I felt when I left my house wonderful and I thought that I looked lovely. And I went to a particular bar that I suppose would have been one of the more upmarket bars. And there was a group of people standing behind us and they pointed out my Primark top because it was pretty popular at the time as being from Primark, and they were laughing at me, openly laughing at me because I was wearing a Primark top. And well, to you now, I don't really care what you think. I still wear Primark tops. But at the time, to a much more impressionable, self-conscious, younger me, I was shaken to the core and I was embarrassed. I think now I would say to them, and what about it? Yeah, isn't it great? Isn't it lovely? Aren't you jealous? But then no. And that's what I say whenever I'm talking about the judgment and that comes on this channel. I deal with it now because I'm older and I have more life experience and I have been through some things in my life that make judgment on the internet about how many bags I have really inconsequential. But my younger self would have crumbled at that. And is it right? No, it's not right. You shouldn't be judging somebody for having less money, having more money, spending their money on bags, on motorbikes, on cars, on, I don't even know, watches, whatever it is they choose to spend their money on. That's their choice. This is my choice. I don't ask anyone else to buy these bags for me. This is my money that I earn and I work hard to earn, and a lot of hours, and I have made sacrifices in my personal life that I can't even begin to explain to you to be in the professional position that I am in now. But that doesn't mean that I am better than anyone else, but it does mean that I should be able to spend my money how I choose without the judgment. Unfortunately, that's never going to be the case. when you buy these bags at this level, you're always going to be judged. There's always going to be someone that feels it's a complete and utter waste, that doesn't understand it, that can't understand it, that doesn't want to understand it, that thinks it's frivolous. And that at times can be hard. It can be hard. I suppose you hope to get to the point that you are confident in yourself, that you don't let that judgment affect you. But there should be no judgment should you be buying luxury or bottom line. You know, it just should be up to you how you spend your money. But yeah, judgment is a thing. It's absolutely a thing. And somebody messaged me earlier today, actually, on Instagram and it's something that resonated with me deeply. And they messaged me about when you come from a poor background and you don't come from a wealthy background, how do you deal with your family whenever you start buying things like this? Because let me tell you, your family will not understand it either unless they have moved on to buying luxury items. Mine haven't. I think my mum would have an absolute fit at the cost of some of these bags. Whilst I know that she is proud of me, I have no doubt that she doesn't understand me when it comes to this addiction. And that is harder when it comes from your friends or your family. And they struggle with what you're spending your money on or how much you're buying things are. And if you've come from a background where this was just like myself, completely and utterly not even dreamt of, not even in the ballpark, it is hard for those around you to then understand suddenly spending what was probably more than they had surplus to spend in a year on a handbag. And it's hard. And it can be hard whenever you know that they don't understand it, that they would judge it. I don't discuss this with my family. My family don't know about this channel. I do not show them when I buy new bags or new items. I absolutely do not discuss the cost of them because I don't want it to make an uncomfortableness. I don't want it to make other members feel that I'm thinking that I have moved beyond anything, that I'm forgetting who I am or where I come from. I'm absolutely not. And I don't want it to look as if I'm saying, look what I'm spending. So I just don't discuss it. It's why I love this channel. It's why I love this outlet to be able to talk about luxury handbags with people that are like-minded. It doesn't suddenly mean that a switch goes and everybody in your private life suddenly becomes okay with this and understands it. My brother will be more outward because him and I are very close, and he'd be blunt to me and go, you're absolutely crazy. And just, even though I don't show him all of this or go into the details, at things that I am buying, even not to this level, he'll think I'm nuts. And that's harder. But I suppose you have to look at it through the prism of knowing that your family only want the best for you, but they don't automatically have an automatic instinct to understand where you now spend your monies. And it's difficult, but it's something that you just have to accept, because what you don't want it to be is the prism between what you're buying and what they're buying or how they feel about what you're buying. You don't want that to become a thing. You don't want that to become something that is divisive. And I suppose then I choose to deal with it by keeping this to myself and talking about it to you guys who come here to watch luxury handbags, and not talking about it with my friends and family, because I would never want someone to feel uncomfortable or to make that separation between anyone. And that's something that I think has come a little bit easier over time and with age. And I suppose also having been through some of the bigger life events that I have been through that are challenging, realising that in perspective, not talking about this, so, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I keep this to this channel, to myself, to one of my friends who is interested in this type of thing. And I try not to let the judgment impact me or affect me. It is harder when it comes from people close to you. I do think when you get a bit older and you've been through quite a lot, if you are in my position, judgment from people on the internet that don't know you, I kind of loll at that a little bit, and some of it makes me laugh out loud. And I just don't take that to heart, because you're always going to get it. I had someone comment recently about how I do a couple of hours admin in my husband's business and I call myself a businesswoman and I know the price of things but the value of nothing. Laugh out loud, you have no idea who I am and you could not be further from the truth. The company is mine. My husband does not work in it. I work 1,000,000 hours a week, it feels, and I know the value and the cost of everything because I have earned it. I have worked my way up through hard work, sweat and tears. I have sacrificed a lot and I, believe me, know the value of what I purchase. But I also know that the value of my friends and my family and what else is in my life far outweighs any of this, because at the end of the day, they're just handbags. The last aspect on this deep and confessional video chat that we're having is the guilt. And it is dealing with feeling guilty at spending this amount of money on handbags or shoes or watches or bikes or whatever it is you're interested in. It's the guilt. And it's a thing. It is a thing. Do I ever feel guilty about what I am spending? Yes, I do. I have recently done an unboxing haul and some of you very lovely people come into the comments and said to me, stop explaining it, stop apologising for it, you've earned it, just enjoy it, you don't need to explain it. And I suppose that comes from the guilt. Now, if you've watched my previous finance videos or my finance channel, you will know that I keep a separate account for spending on money like this. I should sort out all of my other expenses first. My house, my investments, my children's monies, my house money, my spending money, my everything else money before it comes to things like what's sitting around me. And the account that is for this money is there to be spent on these sorts of things. And that very much helps alleviate the guilt because it means the money you're spending, it's almost like free money to spend. It's money that's yours, guilt-free. It's not tied to anything else. And if the money's in that account, go ahead and spend it without thinking that it's going to impact on anything else. And that is how I manage my money. And for the most part, that helps manage the guilt because the money is coming from an account that's specifically for this and is not taking away from anything else and is not impacting on anything else. There are still times, however, if I have went through a period of time like recently, when I have bought quite a lot and I have spent quite a lot of money, even though it's still coming from that account and even though it's not impacting on anything else, it's hard not to feel a little bit guilty when you're spending so much money on these types of items, and it's hard not to let that shake you a little bit. I find the best way to deal with that is by keeping it to the money that is not associated with anything else, and then you know that it should be guilt-free. We are all human though, and for me personally, if I buy a lot in a short period of time, you're going to get a bit of that guilt. You're going to feel a bit of, oh my goodness me, I have just spent how much on so much on what I bought. I find not adding it up helps. Somebody told me once about someone that keeps a spreadsheet. No, I don't add it up. I don't add it up. But I think keeping that separate money to play with and to spend does help. When it does come though, I think you just have to sit down and have a conversation with yourself and realise everything else is accounted for and taken care of. This is money that was separate to spend. It's not coming from anywhere else. And at the end of the day, I will not call these an investment. They are not an investment. They are an investment into your wardrobe, but for the most part, generally, they're not a financial investment. No, go check out my other channel if you want to talk to me about financial investments. It's not bags. But for the most part, if you have spent too much money or you feel like you've spent too much money, you will generally, if I could speak, be able to sell the bags that you have bought and recoup, in some instances, all of your money, sometimes maybe slightly more, or most of your money if it's been looked after. There will at times be a loss, especially if you don't have a platform to sell on and you're going through resellers or consignment because they take their fees. But although I will not call them investments, if it gets to the point that you feel the guilt is overwhelming or you've spent too much, they can be sold and you can recoup at least a proportion of the money that you have spent. And that is how I try to deal with the guilt. I think it helps by not leaving yourself. I never even shop to the point that my account for extra things is at zero. I think keeping a buffer and making sure there's always a bit of money there helps. So you're not thinking I have left myself to the point of zero by what I've been buying. And that also helps. Before we end, there's something I just want to also touch on, because you know that I will just tell you what I think. And I have said that I don't really take the judgment of strangers on board all too much, because I have worked extremely hard for everything that I have. That does not mean it's okay to judge someone that it's been lucky enough that they have a wealthy family or a wealthy husband, and that's where they've been able to buy these things. If they have, I am absolutely jealous of that. I would love to have had a little bit more money growing up, or to have someone that was able to help me buy some of these things. Just because it's coming from your husband or your family or your parents or your partner, big deal. If that person is still able to have these things and someone is helping them, it doesn't mean they should be judged for that either. And I just wanted to put that out there. It's not my experience, and for me it came later in life. But if you've been in a position to buy these bags younger, or if you've been able to bought them as presents, well, I'm delighted for you. And I think that that's fabulous. And it's so lovely of that person to have done that for you. And I don't think that there should be judgment attached to that person either. I think they should be left to enjoy what they have. So that is my video today. I hope that that has answered the queries and the questions that you have been leaving me. I hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope it's been a little bit still entertaining, even though it's been a little bit deeper than normal. But thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for being here. Please take care, and I'll see you again in the next one.